couple of years, so I don't know if that market's really there. The Marlins kind of came and went. I don't think they have the money right now. And the Texas Rangers, but right now they spent $51.7 million on Yu Darvish, and of course that money is refundable if they don't sign him. The market on Prince is pretty limited. And to get back to your other comment, he was obviously swayed by the money, but I think any ball player that puts their life day in and day out into their craft wants to win.
I don't want my comments to be misconstrued. He came here only for the money. Albert Pujols was very clear that his conversations with Artie Moreno, what inspired him to come out here was the commitment to the community, the commitment to winning, and the long-term commitment to Albert Pujols and his family, and to not have to go through this in 4 years or 5 years like he would have had to in St. Louis. They made a commitment to him not only for 10 years, but beyond in his retirement. And that stability in his life with his family is important to him. As far as how that affects the rest of the free agent landscape, I think that a little bit surprising that once that big first chip goes down, really the crown jewels of the offseason, both have so far come to the Angels. You get the best starting pitching prospect and the best hitter available, and you take both those off the table. Natural thinking would be Texas would be ready to make a move immediately. But that hasn't happened, and this market is very slow in developing. I still think Fielder might end up in Texas. The Nationals, I talked to somebody with the Nationals last night. Obviously, they feel strongly that he's going to end up there. I think it's one of those two teams. If somebody else comes out of nowhere, that's great. But, this Angel club is going to be better in 2012 for the moves it made. I still would like to see him make one or two more moves. But overall, you got to be happy. Is it the best offseason ever? I think we'll evaluate that in October of 2013, 14, and 15. But right now, it feels pretty good.
I think in regards to Texas, they have enough hitting, and I think that's what they basically see on paper. Is we got there on the merits of our hitting, and next year we need more pitching. Especially as you pointed out, they lost arguably their best pitcher in C.J. Wilson, a guy who had 206 strikeouts last year. And I think that's why they're going after Yu Darvish, obviously. Plus,
but
their contingency plan.
Isn't the Darvish move, isn't that a TV move for them?
I think it's a TV move. I think it's...
you know what? I would say that, but you know what? Nolan Ryan's track record with pitchers is pretty impeccable right now.
We'll say that. Well, let's wait until
after... Other than Brandon
Webb,
Webb, what bad moves has he made?
We'll see when
look, is Brandon Webb really a bad move, or is it just a
speculative move?
It's a flyer that didn't work out. So I'll give to you
that, what is he really messed up?
I'll give to you that Nolan Ryan has made good moves,
great moves. Alexi Ogando for half a season last year was dominant.
The signing of Japanese pitchers with this huge upfront price tag. I mean, Matt Suzaka came over as a can't miss, and he threw the gyro ball or whatever the hell that is. And it's been a lot of hype and not a lot in return.
He was good for about 2 years.
That's relative. That's relative.
But, okay.
With an inflated BABIP, right? Everyone said, he's getting it done, but it's really smoke and mirrors.
Nobody knows how he's getting it done. He's getting it done with a lineup that scores 7 runs a game.
Exactly. So, another point is, I think, the reason Fielder has no market, the Yankees and Red Sox, I hate to say it, guys, weren't interested. I know the Angel fans don't want to hear that.
I mean, the thing that's not being said about Prince Fielder, and it's been said a lot actually, is he's a fat guy who's trying to play in the National League that everybody in the National League is terrified will become a DH at some point. So half the teams in baseball are concerned about, can this guy, who has done a great job at staying healthy so far in his career, can he stay healthy with the extra pounds that he's carrying around with him? So let's assume that he does. How long a commitment are you going to make, assuming that a guy who is grossly overweight is going to be able to... He is.
He is a vegan. I mean, he's lost weight.
Eats twice as many salads as the next guy. He's a vegan, or he's a... Is that what he is?
He's a vegan.
Okay, so he's a vegan, and I think I've heard that before. He's cheating somewhere.
Okay, maybe.
I mean, maybe he's a vegan that drinks a ton of beer. There's something going on, because it's not all in the glands. There's something going on with Prince Fielder that he eats his...
Maybe he's just a vegetarian. He is from Milwaukee, so he's probably eating nothing but cheese and beer.
All right, well, we need to take a break, but when we get back, we're going to reopen this whole Prince Fielder debate. We're going to talk about some teams that we actually do think he's going to go to, and we're going to unveil our great moment in Angel history. So don't hit that dial. We'll be right back in just a minute. All right, we're going to get right back into the Prince Fielder discussion as advertised, but first we're going to unveil today's great moment in Angels baseball history. The date was September 30th, 2006, and the moment was when Francisco Rodriguez picked up his 47th save of the season, which passed Brian Harvey's previous single-season club record that was set in 1991. All right, so as we said, we're going to talk about Prince Fielder, and I want to start off the discussion with Jason. So, Jason, let me know, where do you think he's actually going to go?
So when you look at the American League teams that need a first baseman, let's just look at the big money American League teams. The Yankees, they don't need him. The Red Sox, they don't need him. The Angels, they don't need him. Detroit, they don't need him. Texas, are we still considering Texas a big money? They don't spend big money, but they're the type of team that could bring them in. So you start getting back into that group. The White Sox, maybe. I mean, there's very few teams that make sense for Fielder in the American League to play first base. Now, if he goes to a DH, obviously those teams continue to open up. In the National League, it's how long of a commitment do you want to make, and will Scott Boras allow his client, who's still young, to sign a 3 or 4 year deal and play this game all over again at the age of 32, 33? If that happens, Prince Fielder might make more money, but he's got to, once again, prove that he can stay healthy, and then at some point, just his body type alone is going to make teams want to move him to the American League, because you need that out clause that he's my DH if he can't play first.
Which I completely agree with, and I think that's a big reason that obviously Pujols didn't go to the Marlins. And again, there are teams that could use him, but don't necessarily have the funds. I think Tampa, boy, could they use Prince Fielder. Could the Blue Jays use him? Absolutely. The White Sox would be a good fit because he could play DH, and I think that makes sense, but that's what we're talking about. There are only a handful of teams that have the money to allocate to a player such of his stature.
I think we're missing out that the Cubs would. I think at the end of the day, they're going to go, you know what?
Well, they just picked up Anthony Rizzo. So
True.
that pretty much dried up his market out there. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, where's he going to go? That's when we're talking about the Angels possibly needing a bullpen piece. There's a lot of guys who are talented that would be a great fit here. But as you pointed out, why go out and spend your money so early? Wait for the guys to fall to you. Right now, it's a buyer's market, not a seller's market.
Well, this happens every year where there's a certain amount of players that fall. And a couple of years ago, Bobby Abreu signed basically on Valentine's Day right before the Angels went to camp. And it was one of the more valuable signings they had that year as far as production and bringing somebody in. And now you're still dealing with it 2 or 3 years later because of the extension that was given to Abreu. I think he'll be a valuable part of this team. But the point is, there are moves that get made in late January and early February. Now, we're running up on that time pretty quickly. I know it was posed to Eric. It was posed to I by Sam Miller at the Orange County Register last week. I don't know if you had a chance to chime in on that yet or not, but what would your thoughts be about what would be the one move that would head and shoulders put this Angels team above and beyond Texas or whoever else could be chasing them in the American League West, or maybe the American League in general?
All right, buddy. I'd love to answer that one right now, but we have a clock to worry about. So when we get back from this next commercial break, we're going to pick this up, and I am going to indulge you, and I'm going to play this what-if game, and we'll kind of scope out some possible scenarios. Okay, so as I said, we don't have time now. We're going to come back, and we will play the what-if game. All right, welcome back to Angels Insider Radio. My name is Morgan Spokny. I'm here with Jason Brennan and Eric Denton. And when we left you just a couple seconds ago, Jason tossed to me the proverbial what if. He wanted to know, hypothetically, if I could make one move, what would I do? If we could what if and go out and if we could get David Wright, would be an excellent move short term. He's going to be a free agent. But if we're going to make a run this year, David Wright, I think, would put us heads and shoulders above the rest of the competition in the AL. And then if we're just going to make a small move.
One move.
Well, David Wright would, because I think when you look at the comparison between an offensive player and a middle reliever, come on, it's a no-brainer. The guy plays 162 games, say maybe 140 with injuries, off days or whatever. Clearly, there's more impact with an offensive player. So my one move, if we could get a sign and trade, and if it didn't cost us an arm and a leg, I would like David Wright.
This is an NBA. You don't do sign and trades. Who are you giving up for David Wright?
Why can't we do a sign and trade?
Who are you giving up for David Wright? Players don't allow their current organization to negotiate their contract and then trade them.
David Wright is in baseball purgatory right now. Okay, he is stuck with a team that's a cellar dweller.
And
they're not going anywhere fast.
He can sit there for 6 months, put up stats, and go somewhere else in 6 months.
He could, or if he wants, because again, baseball players don't play an infinite amount of years here. So why not say, hey, Mr. Met, whoever's running the Mets right now, right? I don't even know, the Wilpon family or something, I don't know. Anyways, just say, hey, buddy, I'd like to go actually win this year, okay? I have no protection. I have no ducks on the pond. So I say, hey, trade me. I'm going to sign the extension. We have to somehow collude together. You get the Angels involved in this, and you say, look, what's going to mutually work for everybody? Okay, then we could flip Peter Borges. We could flip one of our prospects, right? So let's say we give them a center fielder, which they could use. We give them a little bit of pitching. We open up, because basically we have 5 outfielders right now for 3 holes in a DH, right? We can't play all these people. As is right now, we're going to have like $12 million of Bobby Abreu's salary, maybe playing, right? Maybe Morales comes back, maybe he plays. So I say, look, let's make some sort of deal here. We're going to sign you up for like a 5-year deal, because I don't want to trade off my prospects if I'm just going to go ahead and lose this guy.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Why? That works all the time.
In other leagues.
Give me one example.
In baseball?
Of that.
That's a good point, but it happens. It could happen, right? And why can't we buck the trend, set a precedent, and it would be the David Wright rule?
You have to be – no, it's the Alex Rodriguez rule where you don't want the rest of the 10-year contract, and you can opt out after you get traded, so then you get another 10-year contract.
Okay, but I'm just saying why – I think that would make sense, because honestly, we saw last year the most dynamic player on our team, the game changer, was Mike Trout, right? He wasn't even playing well, but the team was winning. There was some sort of just magic fairy dust that just kind of just made its way to the rest of the clubhouse, and we were winning ball games. He was that guy who could hustle down the line, make that nice defensive play.
I think Mike Trout was fun to watch, but offensively, if you want to put any real praise on...
Call it the Tim Tebow effect.
The Tim Tebow effect? I would say that the Tebow of the Angels is a combination of Borges and Trumbo. They were the 2 that showed up last year.
Okay, but I mean, those 2 guys were there from day 1 to day 162. Trout was there for a little brief period, and we were winning.
They were winning, but, you know, Mike Trout he still hit 216, and he's still 19 years old.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So would you want him out there next year? I mean, let's say, again, it's early in the offseason, but let's say he goes into spring training and he's raking. I mean, let's say he hits over 300.
It's a stipulation in the arbitration process called Super 2, where you get to keep a person for another year. Keeping Mike Trout in the minors for the first month or 2 of the season will give the Angels another year of before it reaches free agency.
Player service, okay.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. They're going to write out Vernon Wells as long as they can. And if he turns it around and he's back to old Vernon Wells, great. It gives Mike Trout a full year at AAA to dominate, and he'll come out and he'll play when we need him to. He'll be on the postseason roster.
Well,
but 2013 is Mike Trout's year.
See, and I agree with that, and I totally get it. It makes the most sense, behooves the organization to wait it out, and especially when we have a jam-packed outfield as is. But I want him, if we're going to make a playoff push, I want him on that playoff roster eventually. You know what I'm saying? We can afford, with the players we have right now, to wait it out a little bit. Then we stick them in the lineup, and I think that takes us to the next level. But someone's going to have to go eventually, or else you're right. He's going to spend the entire year until September call-ups. Well, and even then, when does he play?
His spot comes in 2013. Torrey Hunter is a free agent.